I never thought that the deepest wound of my life would not come from an accident, not from an enemy, but from the very person I once called my best friend. Her name was Emily, and for years she was the mirror of my soul, the other half of every memory I carried from childhood. From the outside, we were inseparable. Teachers admired our bond, neighbors envied how close we were, and relatives said we were like sisters born into different families. But what no one knew was that behind Emily's warm smile lived a shadow that slowly grew with time, a shadow that would one day swallow every ounce of trust I ever had. When I was a little girl, the world felt simple. My happiness was measured in small things, running through the grass barefoot, chasing fireflies in the summer evenings, or listening to my grandmother's old stories under the dim glow of a lantern. And in almost all those memories, Emily was there. She lived 2 streets away, and it didn't matter if the sun was blazing hot or the rain was pouring down. We always found a way to meet. She knew every secret of mine, the silly crushes I had in school, the poems I scribbled in my diary, the dreams I dared to whisper when no one else was listening. To me, she wasn't just a friend. She was my safe place. But looking back, I realized the signs of betrayal were always hidden between her words. Like poison in sweet honey, whenever I achieved something, her smile never reached her eyes. When I scored high in exams, she would clap for me, but her words had a strange edge. "You're lucky. Things always fall into place for you." At that time, I laughed and told myself it was nothing. After all, best friends don't envy each other, right? But sometimes the heart knows the truth long before the mind is willing to accept it. As we grew older, our dreams became clearer. Emily wanted to design clothes that would one day walk the ramps of fashion shows. I wanted to become a writer, to tell stories that would outlive me. At night, we would lie under the same sky, talk about the future, and imagine ourselves shining. She would say, "When I open my fashion house, you'll write my brand story." And I would reply, "When I publish my first book, you'll design the dress for my launch party." It all sounded so perfect. But perfection is fragile, and sometimes it hides the ugliest cracks. College was the turning point. For me, it was an ocean of possibilities. For Emily, it was a stage where she wanted to shine at any cost. In our second year, I began working on a story that was extremely personal to me. It wasn't just another assignment. It was a piece of my soul. Every word carried my blood, my tears, and my sleepless nights. I would spend hours locked in my room, writing until my fingers ached. And because I trusted Emily more than anyone, I shared everything with her. The drafts, the plot twists, even the emotional core of the story. She would nod, sometimes give suggestions, sometimes just smile and say, "This is brilliant," and I believed her. But when the day of the presentation arrived, my entire world crumbled. As I sat in the auditorium, waiting for my turn, Emily walked onto the stage before me. At first, I clapped, thinking she was about to present her own work. But then, as she began speaking, my blood turned cold. Word for word, she started narrating my story. My story, the one I had poured myself into. The audience clapped, the professors praised her, and I sat frozen in my chair, unable to move, unable to breathe. My lips whispered the sentences along with her because I had written them. My heart screamed, but no sound left my mouth. When it was finally my turn, I walked up on stage like a ghost. My hands shook, my throat burned, and I tried to explain that what she presented was mine. But who would believe me? She had already stolen the thunder. She had submitted the draft earlier under her name, using the notes I had once trusted her with. The professors thought I was lying, trying to copy her. Some of them even gave me looks of disappointment, as if I was the betrayer. That humiliation, that helplessness, it's something I can never forget. For weeks, I couldn't look anyone in the eye. I avoided college, avoided friends, avoided even my own mirror. Emily, on the other hand, flourished. She walked around with confidence as if nothing had happened. She smiled at me, the same smile she had worn since childhood, and it made me sick. One evening, I confronted her. My voice shook as I asked, "Why did you do this to me? I trusted you." She didn't flinch. She didn't even pretend to be sorry. She simply said, "Because you were always ahead of me. Always the star. I was tired of being in your shadow. For once I wanted the spotlight." Those words cut deeper than any blade. It wasn't about the story anymore. It was about years of jealousy I'd been too blind to see. I should have walked away. I should have cut ties and moved on. But betrayal has a way of planting seeds of revenge. Every night, as I lay awake, the humiliation replayed in my head. Her laughter, the applause she received, the way everyone looked at me with suspicion. It was unbearable. And slowly, an idea began to grow inside me. If she wanted the spotlight, I would make sure it burned her. I started observing her, quietly, carefully, like a shadow. I knew her strengths, but more importantly, I knew her weaknesses. Emily was ambitious, but she was careless. She wanted quick success without hard work. She lied easily, but she often forgot her lies. She wanted everyone's admiration, but deep down, she craved validation more than anything. I collected every detail, every slip, every flaw, storing them like weapons for the day I would need them. At first it was small things. I exposed her lies subtly, making professors doubt her credibility. When she claimed a design was original, I anonymously leaked proof that it was copied from an online template. When she tried to take credit for group projects, I made sure the actual contributors were recognized. Slowly, her image began to crack. People who once admired her began to whisper behind her back. But that wasn't enough. My wound was too deep for small victories. I wanted her to feel the same helplessness I had felt. Then came the biggest opportunity. A national competition for young designers and writers, where winners would receive scholarships and media recognition. Emily was desperate to win. She poured everything into it, or so she thought. But what she didn't know was that I was 2 steps ahead. I had seen her designs, and I knew where she had copied elements from. Quietly, I gathered proof. The night before the competition, while she celebrated with friends, I slipped into her workspace. I replaced her final submission with an altered version, one that looked convincing but carried deliberate flaws. The next day, as the judges reviewed her work, their faces shifted from admiration to suspicion. Questions were raised, accusations followed, and Emily's confidence crumbled on stage. She tried to defend herself, but the evidence was undeniable. She was disqualified, publicly humiliated, and branded a fraud. I watched from the audience, my heart pounding, my lips almost smiling. It was the same stage where she had once stolen my story, and now it was where she lost hers. But revenge is never as sweet as we imagine. That night, when I looked at her broken face, I didn't feel the joy I thought I would. Instead, I felt a strange emptiness. She had betrayed me, yes. She had destroyed a piece of me. But in destroying her, I had destroyed a piece of myself too. Still, life went on. I graduated, started building my career as a writer, and distanced myself from her world. But Emily's shadow never truly left me. Every time I achieved something, a small voice asked, "Is this real? Or will someone steal it again?" Every time I made a new friend, I wondered, will they turn out like her? The betrayal had done more than hurt me. It had reshaped me. Years later, I heard she had moved to another city, struggling to rebuild her life. Some said she had changed, others said she was the same. I never tried to find out. I had learned my lesson the hard way. Sometimes the people closest to you carry the sharpest knives. And now, when I tell this story, it's not for revenge, not for pity, but as a warning. Be careful who you trust. Not every smile is genuine. Not every friend is forever. And not every promise made in childhood survives adulthood. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it never returns the same. Because sometimes, the sweetest face hides the darkest betrayal. I spent years thinking Emily was the person who understood me the most. She was the one I turned to when I needed someone to talk to, the one I trusted with all my secrets. But what I didn't realize was that behind her reassuring smile, something darker was growing. It started small, little comments, jealous remarks, and subtle actions that I brushed off as nothing. I always told myself she was just a little insecure, a little envious. But deep down, I knew I couldn't ignore it forever. I had always been the type of person who trusted easily. Maybe that was my mistake. I saw the best in people, even when they didn't deserve it. I believed in Emily. I thought our bond was unbreakable, that she would always be there for me, the way I had always been there for her. But the truth was, she wasn't there for me when it mattered most. Instead, she became the one who hurt me the most. It all came to a head when I worked on a project for my final year at college. This project wasn't just another assignment. It was my passion, my future. I poured every ounce of my energy into it. Long nights, countless drafts, endless edits. I gave it my all. The story I was writing was deeply personal. It was about love, betrayal, and forgiveness. Things I had never experienced in real life, but things I dreamed of understanding. The story was my heart, and I wanted to share it with the world. Emily knew how important it was to me. She knew that this project was my ticket to a scholarship, my opportunity to finally prove myself. She also knew that I trusted her completely, and because of that trust, I made the mistake of sharing it all with her. I showed her my drafts, my ideas, even my fears and doubts. I thought she would be my biggest supporter. But what she was doing behind my back was far worse than anything I could have imagined. The day came when we had to submit our projects. I was ready. I felt a mix of excitement and fear, but mostly I was hopeful. I submitted my work and went on to enjoy the rest of the day, thinking I had done my best. Little did I know, Emily was already a step ahead of me. The next week, during the final presentation, I walked into the auditorium with my heart pounding in my chest. It was my time to shine. I had put everything into this project, and now it was time to show everyone what I could do. But as I sat in the audience waiting for my turn, something caught my eye. There was Emily standing on stage presenting my work. Word for word, sentence by sentence, she was reading from my project. She was pretending it was her own. And the worst part, no one knew. Everyone was clapping, praising her, admiring her. They had no idea that the person they were applauding was standing on the stage, with stolen words. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My hands shook, my vision blurred, and I felt a knot tighten in my chest. How could she do this to me? How could the person I trusted most, the person I considered my sister, betray me like this? As the applause echoed through the room, I stood frozen in my seat. I wanted to scream, to jump up and tell everyone the truth, but I couldn't. My throat tightened, and I couldn't find my voice. She had already stolen my thunder. The whole room believed her, and all I could do was sit there, watching the worst kind of betrayal unfold before my eyes. When it was finally my turn to present, I walked up to the stage, but it felt like I was walking in a dream. I felt numb, disconnected from everything. As I stood before the audience, I couldn't even remember what I had prepared to say. All I could think about was the fact that Emily had taken my words, my soul, and made them her own. I tried to explain, but my words came out broken. This isn't right, I stammered. This is my work. She took it from me. I wrote this. But no one believed me. How could they? Emily was confident, poised while I stood there shaking. The professors looked at me with disappointment, as if I was the one who had done something wrong. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know how much she had stolen from me. After the presentation, I confronted Emily. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look sorry. She simply smiled and said, "You were too slow. You were too comfortable. I needed this and I took it. What's the big deal?" The coldness in her voice sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't just the fact that she had stolen my work. It was the way she said it. Like it was all a game to her. Like nothing mattered except her success. I wanted to yell at her, to scream that she had destroyed me, that she had stolen something precious from me. But instead I stood there, frozen, unable to speak. I felt small. I felt powerless. And in that moment, I realized just how much I had underestimated her. She wasn't the person I thought she was. She had used my trust against me, and now she had everything she wanted. But here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't break you. Not in the way you think it does. At first, it feels like the world is collapsing around you. You feel small, insignificant, like nothing you've ever done will matter again. But over time, something happens. You start to realize that the person who hurt you, the one who betrayed you, only has power if you let them. I spent weeks in silence, watching as Emily basked in the attention, the praise, and the recognition that should have been mine. I watched as she took credit for everything I had worked so hard for. And while the world applauded her, I slowly began to gather the pieces of my broken trust, my broken spirit, and rebuild myself. Revenge isn't about anger. It's not about shouting or causing harm. It's about patience. It's about taking back the control that someone else tried to steal from you. I knew I had to be careful, strategic. Emily had made a fool of me in front of everyone, and now it was time for me to make sure the truth came out. But I wasn't going to do it the way she expected. I started by gathering evidence. I went through every draft, every email, every note I had made. I compared timestamps. I took screenshots. I collected everything. Slowly, I built my case piece by piece until the truth was undeniable. Then came the day when I finally decided to expose her. It wasn't a public confrontation. It wasn't a shouting match. It was a quiet moment, one where I showed the world who Emily really was. The same people who had applauded her for stealing my work now saw the truth. They saw the emails, the drafts, the timestamps, proof that the work was mine all along. When the truth came out, Emily was exposed for what she really was: a liar, a thief, a person who would stop at nothing to get ahead. And me? I didn't feel the satisfaction I thought I would. I didn't feel any joy in her downfall. What I felt was relief. I had taken back control of my life. I had shown the world the truth. That night, as I sat alone in my room, I realized something important. Revenge is never as sweet as we think it will be. It doesn't heal the wounds. It doesn't make you feel better. But what it does is give you peace. Peace knowing that the truth always comes out. Peace knowing that no one can ever take away what's truly yours. Emily tried to apologize, but it was too late. The damage had been done. The trust had been broken, and there was no fixing it. She disappeared from my life, and I moved on. In the end, betrayal doesn't define you. What defines you is how you rise above it. And the one thing I learned from all of this is that no matter how many times people try to knock you down, as long as you stand up and fight for what's yours, you'll always come out on top.